Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A cloud foundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
I think we do not have access to the fixed assets management, Toby. Usually what we do is we, go to the search and install bundles. From there we have to install the fixed assets management bundle. But I think it's not provisioned in this instance. We will not be able to get that. In fact, even if you search here with the advanced options also, you will still not be able to get it unless it is provisioned because it comes with an additional license. What's going to happen now? Oh, looks like we have. There you go. It has not been granted access to this bundle, and well, I can tell you how the fixed assets management actually works. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Yes, tell me. Beautiful. Awesome. Well, practically I may not be able to, get that installed and explain you because it was not provisioned in this instance. It comes with an additional license. That's why I can explain you how fixed assets management actually works. In general, are you aware of the fixed assets management and the various, fields and components which would come as part of the fixed assets? Are you talking about, the cost, the position, and all the stock network value? Or is that what you're talking about? That's right. In the fixed assets, when we install the fixed assets management, it comes as part of this center tab that you can see here, right next to this customization demo instance and all these things, you would actually have the fixed assets management as well. The fixed assets management setup comes as part of it. And once that is done, you have to import your fixed asset types. And in the fixed asset types, these are the prerequisite. In fact, you would have to create all the fixed assets accounts like the depreciation account, the write-off account, the sales account, alternate depreciation account, right? All these things you would have to configure. You would have to create it in the accounting chart of accounts, in fact. And when you enable, we will not be able to see that. Once you install that fixed assets management bundle, there would be an additional option that comes on your chart of accounts. And that option is nothing but show in fixed assets management. When you create your new chart of accounts, right, there would be an option for you to show that in fixed assets management. As of now, you wouldn't be able to see that option because the fixed assets management is not enabled here. Under this restrictive accounting book, you will have show in fixed assets management account. When you create your fixed asset accounts, like the asset account, the depreciation account, the write-off account, the sales account, all these things you have to select, saying that they have to be available in the fixed assets management as well. Because if you don't select them, you will not be able to select your default accounts on the asset type. On the asset type, you will have all these accounts like 5 or 6 accounts that you can default to, and then you will have the asset lifetime. Asset type is nothing but a broader classification of your assets. Let us say you have, a few houses on the office, and then you have a few buildings. All these things, I know a couple of plots as well. All these things would come as part of the properties, right? You can define those properties in a broader classification on the asset type. You can define them as properties and then give a certain lifetime, maybe 10 years, or and then that way you can actually specify 120 months or 90 months or 60 months or whatever it is. You can specify lifetime on it along with all these accounts. And then there is a residual value as well. There's something called as residual value, which means the asset cost, let us say is $10 million. And you do not want to depreciate the last $500,000, right? In that case, what you do is you define the residual percentage as 5%. When you do that, the asset gets depreciated only till 9.5 million and the last 500K, which is there, will not be depreciated because you have given that as part of the residual value, right? And when you're importing your assets, there are a lot of other records as well when you import the asset. Along with the fields that you have on your asset type, there will be some additional fields that you have to import as part of the midlife fixed assets or the normal assets as well. What happens is these fields that you already have on your asset type will be default. Let me just bring up a notepad. You will have your asset description. That is number 1. Let's see that on asset types. What all you have on asset type, you have your asset type name and then the description, of course. And then you have asset current cost and then you have asset lifetime and then the residual value, right? And then all the accounts, which is your asset account, depreciation account, right? And then your write-off account, write-down account, and you would have to create the transfer accounts as well, which will not be a part of the asset types, but you have to create them differently. Whenever you want to transfer your subsidiaries from one subsidiary to another or from one location to another, you would have to specify your transfer accounts as well. And then asset sales account, right? These are the ones which you will have on the asset type. When you're creating your asset, right, you will have your asset description and then all the above fields which are there on your asset type. All these things will be defaulted. However, you can change these values as well. I mean, if they get defaulted from the asset lifetime, it doesn't mean that you would have to continue with that, right? For one asset, you might say that my asset lifetime is not 90. You can change that during your CSV imports. When you do that, along with these fields, you will have certain fields called as last depreciation period, last depreciation amount, last depreciation date, depreciation end date, and start date. And then you will have net book value cumulative depreciation, right? NetSuite automatically calculates a few fields rather. If you give this start date, right, the start date is mentioned as let us say 1st of June and then you give 60 months, right? Then it automatically calculates this as 5 years, right? And then it gives the depreciation end date as 30th May 2029, which would be 60 months. The depreciation end date, you wouldn't have to map in the Excel sheet that you are importing. That is number one. And then if it is a midlife asset, right? Let us say the last depreciation. The depreciation start date is what? January 24. Let us say the depreciation start date was right. And then the last depreciation date would be 30th May. 31st May, rather 31st May 2024 would be the last depreciation date, right? Because till then it is already depreciated. Your last depreciation period would actually become 5 in this case, because it started back in January, which is January, February, March, April, May. The depreciation period would be 5. What is the last depreciation amount? Now this is your asset lifetime divided by, asset current cost divided by your lifetime. Let us say the asset lifetime, that the cost was 60,000 and then the lifetime is 60. Then this is going to become 10,000. That is your monthly depreciation, right? For 60 months. If we are taking a straight line, we are considering it as a straight line without a receivable value, right? There is something called as a depreciation method as well. Along with the asset types, there's something called as depreciation as well, which would be like a straight line. And then it would be straight line and last first and last month pro, rated first and last month pro, rated right. Or it could be a 5% declining straight line, right? These are different types of depreciation methods which are used, and usually customers prefer using the straight line because it's a little easier to configure the first and last month pro rated. What exactly happens in this is, let us say if you are importing the assets on 15th of a month, right? For that 15 days it's going to calculate in this case of 60,000 assets. An example, right? The first month 500 and then the last month would be 500, right? Whatever is there in between is going to be same than 1000. In this case, it's not going to be 1000 even, because what happens is it is actually 59,000 which is left out, right? 59,000 divided by 58 months. Because the first and last month it is 58. I mean you already calculated that as 500 and 500, right? It's going to be 70 and 24 cents something after that. That is how the calculation works when you take the first and last month prorated. Makes sense? That is your first and last month prorated. And then you know, all these are formula based. Whenever you take depreciation like 5% declining or 10% declining, and all those things will be there. That's about your depreciation methods. Now, what is your cumulative depreciation, right? The cumulative depreciation is, you know, it comes as when you're reporting the midlife assets. 5 months has already been depreciated, which means it can be 5,000. And this also gets calculated automatically by NetSuite. You wouldn't. This particular field of the cumulative depreciation will be grayed out. You will not be providing this to NetSuite. It gets calculated automatically based on your last depreciation date, your depreciation start date, and the asset lifetime, right? Asset cost. Asset cost is 60,000 and per month it's 1,000 because the last depreciation amount is 1,000. And for 5 months it's going to be 5,000. And the net book value becomes 55,000 automatically because whatever is left out would be your asset, net book value. And it has to depreciate to the tune of 55,000. Net book value you have to provide when you're importing it to the NetSuite instance. These are the only very important things that you have to take care while importing it into the NetSuite. And of course, classification as well, right? You might select the location class department on your asset you want to import. If customer wants to give a classification, then this is how you do it. First, you would have to import the asset types. As I have mentioned, there is a different option to import the assets. Then you have to import the assets. For a midlife asset, customers might also want to bring in the asset depreciation history. Because for these 5 months, which already has depreciated, right? When you import your asset, normally what happens is it starts depreciating from 6,000 onwards. It will not show you this 5,000 which is already depreciated. To show that exact line of this 5,000, a depreciation history line is imported. And the only important thing that you have to concentrate on that is there is something called as transaction amount in the CSV import. You would have to map your cumulative depreciation amount to that transaction amount. That the last line indicates that this is 5,000. And from there onwards, it starts hitting 6, 7, 9, 8, 10,000, 11,000 on and forth. If you don't import that cumulative depreciation history line, then you will not see this 5,000 entry line at the bottom of your record. That makes sense. And the important part of this is that you would have to verify these things before you import into NetSuite. The cumulative depreciation net book value probably customers. Your customer might give around 1,000 assets. You would have to manually calculate these things in an Excel sheet. Probably next to the cumulative depreciation field, you would have to say calculated cumulative depreciation and calculated last depreciation amount and then verify that the values are correct. Because on NetSuite, what happens is the suite bundle, which is there for fixed assets management. It does not throw any error if you are importing incorrect values. It just calculates depending on whatever value you provide. In case of last depreciation amount, if you say it's not 1,000, rather you say that it is 1,100 by mistake, then it's going to calculate based on 1,100. It generates all junk values. It may not depreciate towards, the complete 60 months may not be depreciated. It might end up depreciating about 51, 52 months, but it imports. You would see that the record is imported but with incorrect values. You will not be. That is the reason you would have to validate all these things before you import it on NetSuite. And then even after importing, you would have to just download the dump and verify that everything is fine. Randomly, right? You may not be able to verify all the 1,000, 2,000 assets that you've imported, but if you can verify like 10 or 15 asset records and see that if everything is fine, then you will be good enough for the asset depreciation to be done. Inside the fixed assets, there is something called as asset depreciation. You would go into asset depreciation and depreciate those assets. Based on that, the net book value, the cumulative depreciation, and everything is calculated and all the asset journal entries are created. And initially, when you are depreciating it for the first time, the journal entries for, let us say, 1,000 assets will be in a single journal entry for that particular period. Right. And then for the next period, you would have another 1,000 assets. That's how the asset accounts and the depreciation accounts get hit on those journal entries. However, from there onwards, whenever you depreciate, let us say you import only one asset. And if you depreciate that particular asset, only that entry will be seen in a single journal entry. Right. Hope that makes sense as well. That makes sense. There is one important thing that you would have to remember when importing the CSV asset records. Inside a setup, there is something called as run CSV server scripts and workflows. You have to disable that in your setup and enable that when you're doing the CSV imports. This is very important thing that you need to do, because if you are enabling it both the ways, if you enable it in the setup and enabling it in the CSV import, then it's going to cancel out the effect, right? It will not calculate the last depreciation date. The depreciation end date will not be calculated properly. You would have to ensure that either of them have to be selected and the other one has to be disabled. But if you enable both or if you disable both, it's not going to work. That is, I should say, a limitation on NetSuite, because most of the people may not know that, either one has to be checked. Right. Just remember this when you're importing your fixed assets. That's great. And then there is something called as asset proposal as well. You can generate your assets from the transactions, like your vendor bill, like your journal entry, like your credit notes. And there are certain transactions that you can create your assets from. You can propose an asset and you can generate them as assets. The only catch here is that on the vendor bill, you would have to debit your asset account. Right? If it is an expense, then you would have to debit the asset account. Or if you are, let us buying an item on the item, the asset account should be the asset account that you create for your fixed assets. And that particular asset will be debited, right? When you are receiving that asset will be debited. And once that is debited, if the vendor bill is approved, you will have this transaction in the asset proposal. All you got to do is go to asset proposal and then select the subsidiary that you want to generate proposals from. And you can also select generate, and then it generates an asset proposal from where you will be able to create your asset. Hope that makes sense. That makes sense. That is about your fixed assets and transfers we already spoke about. And then there is asset revaluation as well. At some point in time, probably a year later or 2 years later, you want to change the asset current cost. In that case, you would have to do an asset revaluation. The depreciation entries are going to change. The amounts are going to change. And from then onwards, the schedule is going to change. Once you import your assets into the system, you will have a single line on the depreciation history, which is the first month which will be depreciated. In the setup, there is something called as pre-compute asset depreciation values. Right. You just have to click on that pre-compute asset depreciation values. And that is when the depreciation schedule gets generated for all these 16 months that we are talking about. Right. If it is a midlife asset, 5 months are over, then it's going to generate a schedule for the next 55 months. That's about the fixed assets. And we spoke about the report customization, right? 6 searches and post customization. Save searches as well. We will see the saved searches. Any saved searches you want to do, you can actually go to the transaction or you can go to an entry list or whatever it is. There is a search option that you have here. In purchases, you see the search. In requisitions, you have a search. In quotation, you have a search. You go to the sales, you will have a search from here. This is one way of doing it. Now, when you do it from here, you would not have to, select the type of transaction that you want to create a search for. However, when you go to your reports, right? New search. There is some more saved searches, all saved searches. This is one. You can create it from here as well. You can go to this new and then you would have to select on which form or which transaction you want to create your saved search on. For example, here I can go to my purchase. Here you will create a transaction saved search. When you say transaction, you can click on this transaction and then you will select the saved search that you want to create. Maybe a sales order, an opportunity, a purchase order or a receipt, an item receipt, whatever transactions that you do would be available to create a saved search for you. I mean, you can click on the transaction saved search and from here you will be able to filter out. Rather than doing this, what you can do is probably you want to create a saved search on the purchase order. You go here and the purchase orders and click on search. Now, when you do that, and then you can click on create saved search for you. Check this. Oh, why is it saying journal entry? Usually it has to say the type is purchase order. I don't know why it says journal entry here. Hold on. When you go from here, it automatically for everything is giving this option. I don't know why, but usually what happens is when you go there and when you click on your create saved search, this will be your purchase order. It doesn't show a journal entry. In fact, I don't know why is it. Why does it say journal? You can click on this. And you will say, these are all the different transactions, by the way. You can select purchase order. The status is whatever. You don't want that. Maybe right. You can remove it. And in the results write. You can fetch any field that you want to get. It could be an order type. It could be a tax period, whatever it is. And then you might want to get in the subsidiary as well. And this is how you actually search now. If I do a Control F here and then I search for the vendor right, it does not display. However, the way you have to search is you have to bring in this list and then do a vendor Control F. That's when it will bring you all the fields. You see this? And responses. That is how you would have to search. This is a very easy way of searching. And then if you scroll down, there is something called as vendor fields. On the purchase order, all you will have is just a vendor. However, there is a sub-record inside the purchase order which would be for vendor fields again, right? If you click on this, it will bring up all your vendor fields like the address, your account number, your ones in a 9 and eligible or not. The billing addresses. All these things you can actually bring them from here. The country of your, whatever you want. You might want to have the company name, right? Then you can pull that. And then, just do a vendor again and then pull in one of the other records as well. When you scroll down towards the end, that is where you have the sub-record fields. Again, the user fields. You see this? If you click on this, you can actually bring in what all user fields you want on the safe search. I say that I want to have the job title of the person who is creating this purchase order, right? I want to have the name. I want to have these things that that from this particular user, you can actually get those information that you have over there. And then let me go back to the criteria first. Here you can use your expressions as well. If you click on this use expressions, it will give you an option, like the purchase order type is this, and or you can actually use this, or if you say or, then it picks up whatever condition that you give here. Let us say which is, it could be a purchase request as well. I can receive as well, right? If the type is purchase request, I want to pull that also. Then you can say you can once again, and then I can pull in the purchase request as well along with the purchase orders. It's searching vendor. You see this? Rather than doing that, I can say purchase request. Purchase requests, request for code, whatever it is. You can bring in saying that if it is purchase order, and don't say or, because we might want to have both the information right. You can say, and this is how you can use this expression that you have. There are little formulas also that you can do right. Whatever formulas that you want to, express. Right. And then available dashboard view. You want to have it as dashboard view. In the sense, when you go here under the all save searches, this will be visible. You can create that as available as sublist view and then available for reminders also. Now, if you remember, we spoke about the reminders when we were doing the dashboard, right? When you go to the dashboard, there is something called as reminders. In these reminders, you will be able to pull in these saved search as well when you set up your reminder. And if you scroll down, this will be available here. Once I create this will be available as my reminder as well, that I can set up as a reminder. You want to sort it by order descending, and then by what, and then by what. You can actually decide 3 ways of doing one. You might want to sort this by the vendor name and then by the ID, right? On and forth. You can actually do that by the order type, whatever criteria that you have specified over there, right? It will give you that particular option for you to go for a descending order. And then what? What output type do you want this to be, a report or this to be a grid or a graph? This particular saved search, you will be having that run unrestricted. Let us say there are a 1000 records or 2000 records running for all the transactions that you have or maximum results. You might want to catch only in 1000 the top 1000 results. And then you can specify what is your maximum results over here. Include period and transactions as well. Probably you can see. Once you do this right, you can actually highlight. Use the highlighter. What does the highlighter do? You can say my date right. Date greater than or within, and till May 30th, 31st, I want these purchase orders to be highlighted. I can do this and say I want to highlight these things. Text color. I can change the text color too. Probably art, and then I want to have a background color for this as well. This could be this. You can have these things in bold as well. When my report gets generated, I want to see all these things. This is what you're highlighting. And highlight, if you can specify conditions over here, and then you can do that. And then available filters. Do you want to show this as available filter on your, which is order transaction? Maybe right. Show in filter region. I can do this. Do you want to show this as a multi-select as well? I can, if you want the available filters to be that, I can do that too. And then audience is right. You can specify to which audience do you want to all the roles. I can say that this could be, allow the audience to edit. Do you want to specify that in the department, within class, within subsidiary, you can do this as well. And then you can specify to, which role, and these things should be visible like the list, form, results, dashboard, sublists. You can actually specify this too. But if you are giving it to all the audiences, it's imperative that everybody would have access to this particular. You can create a search to the recipient that you want, right? As one of the recipient for this particular same search, then you can select the same. You can select if you want to send this like a daily event or event. Select the city, start date and ending. All these things can be done if you want this. I can hear you. I don't know. Oh shit. I didn't save that, in fact. Well, but no worries. Let's just go to a new save search. Right. And if we do that, how do you save and how do you, we don't have to like restart everything. Just show me where do I go when I'm done with the save search. How do I save it? Once you save it, it will be a part of this all saved searches. You see this. Let us say I have saved this custom item. This is my custom saved search which I have done. I can click open this custom saved search. All the results that I have saved would be as a part of this saved search. If I created a new saved search, right, how would I save it? Do I have to the button to click save or let me see? Let's just create one real quick. It's just created. Let's see how it works. Results. I might want to add the subsidiary, whatever. This is up to you. You can add anything that you want to. Highlight this. Overview. I'm going to watch. Well, I'm not going to. Well, I don't know. Oh, stop it. Oh, I know. We have to cut the makeover. Oh, I can't do. Oh, I know. Oh no. You see the save and run once. I save this now, my saved search is ready. You see this. This is how you will have. I have the subsidiary, I have the type as purchase order and I've got the date. Unfortunately, it looks like we do not have anything in the month of May. You see this. All my May purchase orders have been highlighted with whatever I do that I've done. Red, yellow background. All colors. I can get this information as it is. And then I put this as a filter right wherever I want. I can have a multi-select feature on this as well. I can say that only those two. I should be able to see. That can be done as well if you select the multi-select option. That is where you have that option of doing this. This is powerful. Then I can also set it up, say at the vendor level, where I can just go in, view the vendor transaction, use the filter to select the vendors for the month. No, you can set up any condition that you want. NetSuite gives you a provision to select any of the filters, any of the criteria that you want to do, and all these things it's very, very, very feasible. You would be able to do anything with the saved searches. You can create multiple conditions in that you can put up your filters, you can put up your reminders. Now what I've done is I have actually selected this PO results to be available as a vendor as well. If I go to my dashboard and then I, set up this reminder. Set up as well. it will be available for me. There you go. You see this wherever there's a little C in front of it. This is a custom saved search that I have. I can select this and I can say that I want to show it as one of my reminders as well. Now I have 10 POs which are there. All these POs can be on the reminders list. And then you ask me, where should I go to find out my saved search? In that case, you can just go here. I made it available to be in a menu directly. I don't have to search in my all saved searches. Right. What I did was, and I retain the criteria. Or let me do this. I can go to the edit search and I said I need this to be available as a show in menu. Where is it showing right now? If I go here on the reports, I can see my saved search here directly rather than going into all saved searches. If I don't say this, right, if I remove this, it's not going to show up in my menu over there. I go here and then go to reports, all reports. I think it's not yet updated, but you won't see that as part of that menu that we have in the reports part. Got it. That's fine. Now let's look at reports. For my solution, yes, absolutely. And what's the difference between a saved search and a report customization? Is it because we are at the report? I'll let you know what it is. Now the report customization is you will actually create a saved search which will be your customer report, right? You might want to pull in the fields of your choice. When you do the same searches, that is also a kind of reporting every saved search that you do. What is the kind of reporting that you do? However, on NetSuite, it will give you the standard reports. Now, let us say you want to go for the financial reporting. You might want to check the income statement or comparative income statement, or if you go to your purchases, right? You can have your purchase order by vendor. When you go into this option, let's not go there. Probably we'll go into an aging report, maybe. Right. If you go into this report, there are certain standard fields which NetSuite already shows, like the vendor. These are the buckets. The 30 days buckets that you see at 30, 60. You can create this using your saved search as well. However, NetSuite gives you this option. Now, what is meant by report customization? Is that you see this? There's a more option that on the report. When you click on this mode, you will have the filters for your accounting context, the filter for your subsidiary. You can filter it by that. This is the consolidated reporting by the way that you see right now, and then the primary book. However, when you click on this customize option, right, there are certain fields that you can actually bring it up right. Maybe along with these buckets, you might want to get the, let's say the annual revenue as well. You can just bring it on and the annual revenue comes up here. And you might also want to bring the company name along with that. I think that would be the vendors, of course, but the company name can be pulled in as well. And these are for the vendors. Now, if you scroll down, you will have all the other options. Let's say the subsidiary, you might want to bring in the name of the subsidiary as well. Right, like this. You might want to bring in the open papers, right? The date closed on that. Likewise, you can pull all the fields that you want, right? And you can move from left to right as well. You can actually have, when that gets highlighted, you can move this date closed to the first column. Right. You can put in your additional filters as well on the filter step. There are certain things that you can actually put up your filters as well. I want to filter it by this, and then probably you can add another one and then put in that filter as well on the sorting. And there are certain more options as well. When you click on more options, then it gives you these options like the roles, the subsidiaries, audiences, access, and everything. When you go into the customization of the reports, you can explore all these details, right? You can go into each one of these fields that you have over there. You can expand, everything, or you can collapse, alright. And then you can drill down the report by the detail. What this means is that let me go back to the edit columns. There is a custom AP aging report that we have created right now. This is whenever you're customizing. You can save this report by whatever you want. And then you can save it. There you go. Now we have the Cloud AP Aging report, in which we have all the additional fields. Now, if you want to change the buckets as of now, it is 30, 60, 90 and all. If you want to change it to, let us say 10 days, maybe right. You can do that as well. Interval changes this and then refresh. Whenever you make changes, you have to do a refresh of your page. And then you see this, and now I've gotten 6 buckets with 10 days frequency, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Earlier I had 30, 30, 60, 90 or 20. Right? This is how you will be able to do that. And this is the option, the drill down option that we have set it up over there. You can click on this view detail and then it drills down to your, back to the you can. You can either go back to the summary or you can have a detailed view of what you're doing it here. And on the report, you see these are the transactions that you have. You can click on each of these transactions and drill down to that particular transaction as well. You can click on this and get a view, detailed report of that particular time. What you know on this Advent Global Solutions, there was a bill credit. There were 2 bill credits in fact on April 20th and 17th. This report, you will be able to see it. And the option that I'm showing you right now would be available for every report. You can customize every report and you can build every report that you want to actually do that. Alright, then you can customize it and build it. Because I'm clear on that. Another question to try to ask is can you, once you see new customers, and I don't mean during the migration, let's say you've already done the migration, you're already up and running. You want to create customers in the system. Rather than create those customers manually, can you do an upload to create those customer records? Because currently that's something which we're dealing with. Where I work, we are having to create a lot of customers every week due to the nature of our business. And the team is just going in manually to create these customers in that suite. Is there a way to fuel like a template and just upload that template into the notes? You were talking about the customers, right? Now I'm clear on the reports, customizations and search. Now I'm moving to a different topic like creation of customers. Oh, you can do that. See for every record on NetSuite, you will be able to import it through CSV. All you got to do is go to this list, relationships and customers. You can open up a new customer, right? And then create an Excel sheet with this CSV import, right? Like whatever mandatory fields that you have over here, the company, the status, the primary subsidiary, the classes and everything. You can actually create your own CSV import record, the Excel sheet, and then under the financials, you might want to assign the depth for revenue account, or you might want to assign the account, or whatever it is. Any information that you want to specify, just put that on Excel sheet, and all you got to do is go to setup import and go to import CSV records. When you do this here, you would have to set the relationships. And then customers. Just select the file that you want, any CSV file. This may not be, the customer file, but that's when you click on next, you will know if the fields are mapping with the NetSuite fields. Then they get automatically mapped out. As of now, I don't think any of the fields would get mapped because, a few of them have been mapped like subsidiary, the primary subsidiary, because these fields are not the customer fields, right? These are the items. Right. Any customer field that you have, it gets automatically mapped and you can import up to 10,000 records at a time. This is very helpful to know. And it's also helpful to know that any field you hope in, you can create your own template. Absolute. All you got to do is you go to that record. You just pull in all the information that you have here, like the status, the parent company, default category, whatever you want to specify. You can create your own templates. Now, when you are doing implementation, right? If someone is implementing that for you, then they provide these default CSV templates for you. And they look like this. Let me show that to you. It will give you the information about that field. It can give you what all mandatory fields that you have over there. And then the item ID. Based on these fields that you have in the second line, right? When you import, all you got to do is delete this. Alright. And delete all that is there at the bottom. It shows that it's alphanumeric. What is the maximum characters and everything. You'll see you delete this as well. And then you delete the first row. You put in the data. You enter your data, you save it in the CSV format and then you upload it. All these are the next week fields which automatically get mapped based on the description that you provide here. Like this, you can create your own CSV templates. Now what I suggest is, since the implementation is done and you are working for the client, you can have your employees create all these CSV templates and keep them as a repository. That whenever you want to import, you can just put in your data and then just click on, just go to the CSV import and do it. Got it. That's very helpful to know. That goes for journal entries. Anything you want to do right. If you see, this is the fixed assets template. The journal entries also, you have the option. All you got to do is you go here, go to setup, import, export. Instead of relationships, you would select transactions this time. Transactions and then journal entries. Whatever fields that you have on a journal entry, prepare an Excel sheet and then just do it. That's all the job. And this is how we import the trial balances as well. Whenever we go live, we use the journal entry template to import the trial balances in this way. Got. Now, that's very good now. Now I'm just asking random questions. Another thing is bank fees. I know we didn't cover bank feeds because you didn't have that, module setup and all that. But let's say we have bank feeds. What would that do for us, right? Because now everything is being done by you. I'll let you know. I'll let you know what that does do. If you do not have bank feeds, there is something called as match bank data, which is a manual thing that you do. You open up this match bank data. Right. And then after doing this, what you do is you will select your account. Whatever account it is, receivables account maybe. Once you do that, all the Net3 transactions would be appearing on the right hand side for you. And then you will have to upload a file. And this file would be coming from your bank. Debits and credits, whatever it is, the transactions that happen on your bank would be coming up over there. And what you're going to do is upload that particular file. And once that file gets uploaded, you can select your financial institution over here, right? You can choose a file selection. And when that file is there, you can select a financial institution, or you can import, download the CSV template. This is the CSV template that you have to import it into. That CSV template. It would have your date, the payer, the transaction date, the amount and everything. Right? And you can import that particular file. And once that is when you import that, when you go back here, the transactions would be appearing on the left hand side for your bank transactions. Whatever you do, and these gets matched out automatically. When you have your ID, the transaction ID would be available. The transaction number would be there. And there is a transaction number on the bank side as well. When these transaction numbers match, or when the amounts match right along with the transaction numbers, it automatically cancels out. It reconciles the option. And if it doesn't reconcile automatically, then you will have to go into this review and then match them manually. This is what your bank reconciliation would do. The manual bank reconciliation is this process. But when you have bank feeds, right, you don't have to upload a file automatically. Rather, bank feeds would fetch the bank transactions automatically. On the bank feeds app, all the customers might want to do is they enter their net banking credentials, which is safe and secure. We don't do that for the customers. We show them how to do it. They would enter the bank, net banking credentials, and bank feeds automatically fetch the transactions from the bank based on the transaction ID. I mean, once you log in with your bank credentials, you might have 3 to 4 banks which are already there, right? All you need to do is just go ahead and punch in those bank feed, bank credentials, net banking and all. It fetches the transactions and it reconciles automatically. If you need more information about the bank feeds at all, you will have those what you call the documents. We will. All you do is, go to Suite Answers and find out the documents, and then you will have all the information how to proceed with these bank feeds. I'm sorry, I'm actually searching in a different place. You would have to search that in Marketplace Suite app. Because it's not a bundle. It's a Suite app actually. The bank feeds is a Suite app that you have to install on top of your NetSuite instance. If I do this, I get the bank feeds, which is Oracle bank feeds, right? You can click on this and it will give you all the information about the bank fees. Now, when you have bank fees, right, Kevin, do you still need to come back at the end of the month and do a reconciliation? Or as you're posting the entry, because as you're posting the entry coming in from the bank fees, you're automatically reconciling and matching right away? Or do you still have to come at the end of the month and do a separate reconciliation at the end of the month? Because the entrance you're posting is coming in from the bank feeds, right? That's really what I really want to visualize and understand, right? What happens here is that you would still have to reconcile that, but you will not do any manual, Excel sheet creations, or you don't have to upload these things there. Once you have your bank feeds, there will be a different option in this bank. You just have to go there. In this match bank data, only bank feeds will be automatically available. When you click on fetch details, it automatically brings in the bank details over there. And then it, reconciles based on the right. Right. One thing, right, because I've used several systems. I've used Sage Intacct, I've used several other systems. But now I think, let's say I log into, because if I have bank feeds, the way it would normally work is I'm not going to go to the end of the month to bring in my transactions. I bring my transactions on a daily basis because one of the reasons why I want to set up a bank feed is for me to be able to keep track of daily transactions without having to log into the bank account. Then to use those transactions to facilitate entries in it next week. Right? Two things. Now, if I'm doing that on a daily basis, I'm bringing in this transaction on a daily basis and I'm posting daily at the end of the month. What do I have to bring in anymore? Because, I've brought in all these transactions during the course of the month. Do I still have to go through an extra step to do a reconciliation at the end of the month? No, you don't have to. If you're doing it on a daily basis, then obviously you're not going to have anything at the end of the month. Right. The reconciliation happens. If it's a process where you're doing it on a daily basis, that's well and good because you would have less transactions to reconcile, right? You might have 10 transactions a day, and that I know. Reconciling becomes a lot easier rather than doing it at the end of the month. At the end of the month, you might have thousands of transactions to reconcile. Of course, NetSuite does automatic reconstitution based on the transaction date, transaction number and amount, but still a few transactions will be left out because system might not be able to decipher what transactions belong to what. If you are doing that on a daily basis, that's really a good process. We would say that it is a good practice to do that in any case. That's why then, alright, because I'm currently working with ACS to set up the bank fees because right now it's all being done very manually. That's that. And finally, do not forget to share and subscribe to our channel.